Hi, church. I miss you, and I know that we all miss each other. And maybe as a sign of how these days we are seeking companionship wherever we can find it, I'm sitting on the back deck with my friend Zibling. Zibling is a present that I received from Heather for Christmas a number of years ago. And he sits out on a little table on our deck, and we keep him out there all year long. He's an all-weather creature, and so in the winter time he has a little cap of snow that sits on his head. In the summer he bakes, he sits through rainstorms, he's been through straight line winds. Zibling has been through so much, and in the face of it all, this is what he looks like. He has his knees on his hands, and he has this contented little smirk on his face, and his eyes are closed like he's sitting in meditation. And for me, that is a really good image of what these days are asking of us. These days are asking of us a lot of acceptance of some weather, if you will, that continues to come our way as we live through these pandemic days, but also I think, in a strange way, some contentment, which isn't to say that we are content with difficult circumstances in themselves, but we are content to live with God and to be the church in whatever the circumstances might be. Because this has become a disruption, really. Some of the question we were asking at the beginning of all of this was, is this going to be an interruption that we'll be able to snap back from pretty quickly into normal routines? And it's becoming clearer and clearer, and a lot of church leaders all over the world are saying this, that when it comes to being the church, and also when it comes to how we live as people and as a culture, we're not experiencing an interruption, we are experiencing a disruption of the life that we once knew as normal. So this is something to acknowledge and prepare to address. The session is going to meet on Tuesday, and some of what the session will talk about is how we will begin to get ready to reopen. We don't have a reopen date hard on the calendar right now. We're not exactly sure how that's going to look, except to say that when the church building does reopen and we start gathering again, it's not just going to be a snap back to the way we did church before COVID-19. But we do look forward to reopening, and until then, and even after then, since life is going to be different for a while, I think it's important for us spiritually to accept what these days are inviting us to, which is partly, I think, a reorientation to where we find our true contentment, our rooting and grounding in life, which is not in life's circumstances that could be either good or bad. It's always in the God who meets us and carries us through everything and promises us good in whatever comes. And so for me, in terms of my spiritual life, a book that I have started to read is by Dallas Willard, one of the great wise spiritual sages of the last generation. It's a book called Life Without Lack. It's his meditations on Psalm 23 and how a life lived in the spirit of Psalm 23 helps us to live in relationship with God such that whatever life may contain, we can say, there is nothing that I truly need that I don't have with God and all that God is doing in my life right now in this present moment. So I invite you to that if you want to check that out, Dallas Willard, Life Without Lack. And I also invite you to check out the article that I've attached. Sam Martellata pointed this out to me. It's an article by Craig Barnes, who is the president of Princeton Seminary. And it's his reflection on how these quarantine days are inviting us to a spiritual posture that has been rich in the church's history. It's the posture of monastic prayer, where we may not be out in the world quite as much, but that doesn't mean that what we're doing in our more secluded space, or our cloistered space, to use the monastic word, that doesn't mean it isn't somehow going out into the world for the sake of blessing and good, which is what the church always seeks to be about. So again, I do miss you, and it'll be great when I can be as close with you as I get to be with the Zibling right now. And my prayer for me, and my prayer for you, and my prayer for the world that we live in, is that we would find a deeper contentment than just the circumstances we happen to be in. Because this means that the days that we're going through now aren't just days for enduring, but in days for receiving transformation more into the depth of life that God always intends for us in Jesus. So, grace to you all, peace to you all. Let's continue loving God, sharing relationships, and serving others from the heart of Christ.